everyone, this is Pico Entertainment and we are back again. I'm going to talk now Star Wars now and the Mandalorian Season 2, and a recent announcement has been made that the actress Rosario Dawson is going to be playing Ahsoka Tano. And anyone who doesn't know who that is, that's basically the Padawan student of Anakin Skywalker from Star Wars The Clone Wars series, which was a CG animated series that's been ongoing since 2008, and it's currently in its 7th and last season. This was very much a fan favourite choice for years. Lots of fans, if you go online, you'll see plenty of kind of mock-ups and generated images of Rosario in the kind of Ahsoka makeup or Ahsoka design. So for the most part, fans are very pleased with this casting overall, but there's been recent kind of controversial issues that I'll talk about later that have kind of changed the perception a bit of this announcement. But just to go back to the main character, Ahsoka was someone who, as a character, was introduced to kind of get the teenage perspective. There's always a way when you introduce a long franchise of a show, you will have the established characters. So in this case, you had Obi-Wan, Anakin, as we eventually know, goes on to be Darth Vader. But you also have the younger, freshen characters to try and bring in younger viewers, and that's what Ahsoka was. And she was initially, I would say, in the beginning, a slightly frustrating character to watch. She's very precocious, she's very reckless, and she was always back-chatting to Anakin and challenging authority, which can be a good quality, but sometimes it can be a bad quality in itself, where a lot of the times the more established characters would try to set about missions, and Ahsoka was always interrupting and saying things when she shouldn't say things. So they tried to pick up as very much this precocious kind of character. And as the Clone Wars series progressed, Ahsoka became a much more focused and a much more mature character. Now, without spoiling the details, especially if you go into the later seasons, we saw Ahsoka in some very good, like terrific storylines and story arcs. One in particular at the end of season 5 was great. The last sort of, I think it was a 3 or 4 part story arc, was a great kind of story arc into the Ahsoka, the character, and how she grew, and she became a lot more, if you like, aware or self-aware of the Jedi and what was going on in between the Jedi and the rest of the Republic and the Senate, and she comes across to make her own decisions. And that's really not spoiling it. If you haven't seen Clone Wars yet, you really should. It starts off slow, but in the later seasons it picks up throughout. So Ahsoka was really a great character overall. She's a fan favourite amongst many of the Star Wars fans. And yeah, this is a great announcement for them, because this is going to be now the first live action interpretation of the character. So it'll be very interesting to see how they present Ahsoka in the storyline of the Mandalorian. In case anyone didn't know, the Clone Wars takes place between the movies Attack of the Clones and the Revenge of the Sith, so that period in between there. And then also Ahsoka made an appearance later on in the Star Wars Rebel show, which takes place after Revenge of the Sith and before Star Wars A New Hope. So there she was a lot more of an older grown personality and persona. And again, I won't give away any details of what happens to Ahsoka in Rebels, but really, if we're going to see Rosario play this role, it's going to be that version or currently after, because if you remember, the Mandalorian takes place after the events of Return of the Jedi, right? So it's going to be interesting to see. Ahsoka's going to be quite an, I wouldn't say elderly character, but she's going to be a lot more of an older character, right? I'm not exact on the amount of years that have passed by. I'm sure the more dedicated Star Wars fans will be able to tell you that. But it's quite a number of years that's passed between, if you like, the Rebels storyline and then the Return of the Jedi. So it'll be interesting to see how they move this character and how they play her forward. So that'll be interesting there. But in Rosario Dawson, they have a great actress on there. She's been involved in many movies. Ones I can remember is Sin City, the sequel, A Dame to Kill For. She was also in the thriller Trance with James McAvoy and Vincent Cassel. And she was also in Death Proof as well, the Tarantino film. I didn't really like that film, but Rosario was involved in that. And she was also in the film Unforgettable with Katherine Heigl. So she's hasn't been, if you like, a prolific leading actress as such, but she's been involved enough with movies, and of course, I think her most notable role recently was as Claire Temple in the Marvel Netflix shows Daredevil and Luke Cage, right, where she was very much the kind of love interest in both of those shows, and she never really got to fulfill the comic book persona. I think her name was Night Nurse. Claire Temple, Rosario's version, never really progressed beyond that personality, but she was still very good in that series, well, in both series as well. So yeah, I think this is a good choice. I think Rosario herself is a very capable actress. She certainly looks the part, and again, if you go to online, you'll see that she'll be able to satisfy a live action or a convincing live action representation of the character on there. So yeah, those are my quick thoughts on there. I know there's been recent issues, if you like, that have kind of swelled a bit the natural praise or the united praise of this casting. There's been rumours or statements about Rosario having an involvement with who I think was transgender or in the transition of changing their gender, and I think she mistook their identity or didn't give them the respect or was disrespectful for them inadvertently. So there's been a bit of controversy on there, and there's been a bit of outrage on Twitter, and some people have now been against her casting. You know how Twitter works. I don't really get overly involved in that because the moods and the kind of perception, it changes like the wind a lot of the time. So that was a kind of recent ongoing controversy. If you look on the internet, you'll be able to look more details into that, but I'm not really going to focus on that. I'm just going to focus more specifically on the cast in itself. So I think Rosario, she'll do great in this role, and it'll be very interesting to see how she fits in the story of the Mandalorian. Again, I won't go into spoilerific details itself, but the gist of the Mandalorian is the bounty hunter is on this journey, and you know, he's basically got to look after a certain character. I'm shooting, no, you know what about this already, and he has these various standalone missions. So will Ahsoka just be a one-off episode, or will she be a recurring character for season 2 and possibly season 3 if that goes ahead? So yeah, those are my quick thoughts on that show. It's also coincidentally with the fact that the most recent Clone Wars episode of this current season also brought back Ahsoka. Very much a middle of the road episode, but that was obviously intended, you know, timing. They have that episode and then make the announcement shortly after there. So yeah, those are my quick thoughts on it. I think it's a very good casting. I think Rosario is going to do very good in the role. I think this current controversy is going to go away, and once we see her in the actual makeup and in the actual sort of Ahsoka aesthetic, I think that will get fans a lot on side, and there's been general praise for the Mandalorian itself, so I don't think there's going to be any issues there. So yeah, those are my quick thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Are you happy that Rosario has now been confirmed for this role? Are you excited to see Ahsoka Tano in live action for the first time? What do you think the kind of personality that we'll get with Ahsoka following the storylines from Clone Wars and later on Rebels? So let me know what you think in the comments below. Subscribe, and I'll give you more details as we get the announcements through. I don't know when season 2 of The Mandalorian is due to air. I think they've already finished filming the second season. I think that was a while ago, so there's going to be no sort of hindrance in terms of the ongoing virus issues that we're currently in now. So yeah, I think we'll probably see The Mandalorian later this year going forward. But those are my thoughts for now. Take care of yourselves, stay safe, keep certain distances, and wash your hands. Don't get too panicked or hysterical, and I'll see you very soon. Take care of yourselves for now.